The Appalachian Trail Conservancy has a web page that shows annual thru hiking success rates listed with the number of people who started a northbound thru hike and the number that finished for each year. I have been copying these numbers since I first found the web page, and the most recent years are listed there as I speak. Those numbers show a steady trend. Over the years, the number of people starting a northbound thru hike, or NOBO as it's called, has steadily increased, and the percentage who actually complete the entire trail has fallen. 2018 is the most recent year for which the AT has complete numbers as I speak. Under the years I show here are the number of people starting a thru hike, the number that completed a thru hike, and the percentage of successful hikers. If we look at a 10-year span, we see that during that time, the number of people trying a NOBO thru hike has more than tripled, and the rate that pulled it off has fallen by about a third. So, what is going on here? Is there something we can point to that explains this trend? And if there is, can we learn anything from it? I believe the answer to both questions is yes, and that's the topic of this video. Before we get into that, however, a couple of points. First, virtually everybody who hikes on the AT lives through it. The AT is a relatively safe trail. Second, some people are in fact heartbroken if forced to quit a thru hike, but all evidence available to me suggests that most who drop out are pretty much fine with it. I see little evidence that very many are highly upset or angry. I see little evidence that very many obsess over why they failed. Most everybody seems to accept it, no hard feelings. From these standpoints, a falling success rate by itself doesn't mean much. There are, however, more details to this story. As I have said before, this channel has one mission. If someone wants to hike hundreds of miles on the AT, the goal of this channel is to help them keep going. And the best way, maybe the only way, I know of to do that is to make our ability to keep going the top priority. If we don't understand that now, we will understand it before we finish our first 100 miles there. If we can accept the reality behind the falling success rate of the AT NOBOs, I believe it can help keep us going when we are on any long AT hike. Since I first set foot on the AT, I have seen a skyrocketing increase in what I call happy talk. It is a powerful movement with a large number of voices contributing. Taken individually, these voices are trying to be positive and enthusiastic. Many have not yet hiked on the AT. They are likable. They create an earnest emotional appeal. It is easy to see why they are convincing. Before my first section hike, I searched the internet and found multiple admonitions. The AT is rough. The AT is a tough slog. The hills can be brutal. I found all of that to be an absolute fact. YouTube did not exist when I did those online searches. But since then, YouTube and social media have played a prominent role in the promotion of Happy Talk. It's true, the Happy Talk assessment is not unanimous. More than one successful thru hiker has said on YouTube that the AT's difficulty is shocking. They say the AT is punishing. Every day is an experience in constant pain. It can be lonely and boring, quote unquote. Yet, when those thru hikers leave the trail and their videos come to a stop, those messages seem to fall from collective memory. By comparison, Happy Talk is now a nearly constant presence. I would say Happy Talk is pretty much harmless except for one thing. But first, let's take a closer look at what Happy Talk tells us. Some Happy Talk gives lip service to the difficulties we can face on the AT. I'm not sure how much of that sticks. I'm not sure how much of it can stick until we experience it firsthand. I earlier did a video asking if hikers have to learn the hard way. I did. I'm afraid most of us do. No matter what else might be said, we have to admit, taken collectively, the main themes of Happy Talk are powerful stuff. We are invited to believe certain things, even if not all Happy Talk specifically says these things. 1. The AT is so great that no matter who we are, we should hike the thing. Another is, oh my God, the AT is so much fun. We can party. We can make so many friends. Oh, the camaraderie and the friendships. Yet another is, does our life suck? Do we lack purpose? Do we lack direction? The AT will shower us with unlimited purpose and fulfillment. And yet another is, we don't have to train to hike the AT. This guy didn't train, that gal didn't train. They hiked the whole thing. While few Happy Talk adherents will say this directly, it is easy for the listener to infer we can hike the AT with no serious problems. So, what is Happy Talk's main liability? If we really buy into it all the way, and we have a really bad day on the trail, the shock could be very nasty indeed. Even if we take every dire warning to heart, the physical demands of the AT can be a shock when we first encounter them. Anything can cause a really bad day on the AT, but two things are the root cause for many: the trail's hills and rocks. Elevation changes on the AT average 212 feet a mile. An average day for a thru hiker who makes it to Katahdin will be at least 15 miles. A 15-mile day is 3,000 feet up and down on average. In another video, I showed a formula to calculate the difficulty of climbing hills on foot based on elevation and distance. The formula rates anything with a score of 200 as very strenuous. A 15-mile day on the AT will average a score of over 300. So what? People who haven't hiked there will say, I can walk 15 miles a day. On much of the eastern United States, we are limited to fairly flat terrain. If so, those 15 miles would score 38. The AT is 8 times more difficult, or it would be if the AT was a paved trail. Because of all the rocks, the AT is actually much worse. On those rocks, our feet, ankles, and legs, and sometimes knees, are being constantly wrenched into odd positions, the kind we would never experience on a smooth, flat trail. If our shoes aren't up to the job, thousands of times the bottoms of our feet will feel a rock dig in sharply. I consider hiking on those rocks at least 3 times more difficult than walking on smooth, flat dirt trail. 3 times more exhausting. 3 times more painful. I always look for flat rocks big enough to step on. Only occasionally do I spot a rock flat enough to make that work. Oh boy, do I sound negative? Well, I'm afraid there is more. Let's remember that while we're going through all this, the weather could be terrible. If we are 20 miles from a road late at night, and our blisters are bleeding, and our knees are killing us, and we can't get dry, and the wind is blowing rain into our tent, we will be up to our neck in negativity. This is the kind of negativity that haunts me when I think about hikers on the AT. It's the kind of negativity I want everyone to avoid. A couple of bad days like this could flush our morale right down the drain. We need our morale on the AT. I don't want to see anyone's go down the drain. Any hiker who is determined to keep going on the AT will do whatever it takes to keep going. And that whatever might include carrying fistfuls of candy just to get enough calories, or buying the gear for an ultralight loadout so their legs don't suffer so much. This is the kind of stuff that can confuse or baffle or anger those who haven't hiked hundreds of miles on the AT. One thing that's true of the Nobo hikers of 2008 is I saw far more people cooking with alcohol stoves and sleeping under tarps compared to what is shown on YouTube these days. Maybe those 2008 hikers were more focused on the job at hand than they were comfort or having a party. If so, it shows in their higher success rate. If we look at the AT Conservancy's numbers for southbound thru hikers, we see the success rate is strikingly higher in recent years than the northbound rate. One thing that's certainly true is Happy Talk seems to infect aspiring northbound thru hikers more than it does southbound thru hikers. We also might conclude southbound thru hikers are a tougher group, taken collectively, than northbound thru hikers. At the least, the AT Conservancy warns southbound thru hikers that they had better be tough, The Conservancy warns that at the beginning of a southbound thru hike, the terrain is awful, the weather is awful, and there are wide rivers to be crossed on foot. And there's more. The Conservancy also warns the insects are terrible, and some hikers throw in the towel before they even make it to the top of Mount Katahdin, which is the official starting point for a southbound thru hike. If there are keys to be found to defeat the weaknesses of Happy Talk, they lie in our mental and physical preparedness and capability. The physical aspect is critical. If our muscles and body cannot stand the test, or if we get sick or injured, no amount of good cheer or mental toughness can compensate. This channel has talked about those things in video after video. In the description are links to 3 of this channel's playlists. One deals with our morale and trail reality. Another talks about strategies for covering long mileages. The third deals with staying safe and healthy. The challenges described in this video are covered there. If someone wants to hike the AT or doesn't want to hike the AT, that is their business. But if they do, I want them to meet their goal. I want them to succeed. And if they do that, the emotional reward will far exceed any kind of euphoria they might feel before they ever set foot on the Appalachian Trail. Thanks for watching, and check out my Facebook page where I regularly post news about hiking and the outdoors.